Good morning, and thank you for joining me today for The Way to a Wonderful Life. I am Reverend Dr. Henry Lee Bates, coming to you live from Palm Springs, California, teaching from the philosophy of the Mastermind Jesus, the wisdom of the ancients, and the evolutionary science of mind. This program is not pre-recorded, nor is it edited. It is live. For more information about this ministry, please visit www.revbates.tv or www.revbatesontheradio.org. You can also find me on youtube.com by going to youtube.com and putting in the search box The Way to a Wonderful Life channel. That's The Way to a Wonderful Life channel, where you'll find over 100 of my radio broadcasts that you can listen to 24/7 in both English and Spanish. You can also go to MSN, Yahoo, Bing, and Google and put in the search box Reverend Henry Bates, that's B-A-T-E-S, and you'll find everything you want to find out about this ministry. Now, this is a healing and teaching ministry where we go beyond religion and we focus on those simple yet profound spiritual healing principles given to us by the Mastermind Jesus, so that we can believe in our prayer and the answer to it. For we believe and we know that God responds to us by corresponding to our faith and our belief that with God, all good things are possible. With God, all good things are possible. Now, you can send me your prayer requests, your questions, your comments about this program, or you can just send me a note and let me know what's going on in your life, and I will be honored and privileged to pray with you, for you. And you can also send a tithe, a donation, or a faith offering in support of this radio ministry, and you can do that from the websites revbates.tv or revbatesontheradio.org, or you can mail those to Reverend Henry Bates, that's B-A-T-E-S, P.O. Box 1173, Palm Springs, California, 92263. And you can leave me a telephone message in the Los Angeles area at 818-476-0088, or in Palm Springs at 760-778-5677. Once again, this is The Way to a Wonderful Life, coming to you live this morning from Palm Springs, California. This program is not pre-recorded, nor is it edited. It is live. We're going to begin our program, as we always do, with our prayer affirmation, as we remind ourselves of those teachings of Jesus that we are to pray believing that it is, and pray knowing that it is done unto you as you believe. And so if you're not driving a vehicle or operating something mechanical, just pause for a moment and listen for that word, that phrase, or that statement to stir up the spirit within you. Let's begin by saying these words out loud if you can. Say them out loud if you can. The living Spirit is within me, and the Spirit of God is upon me. Let's say it again. The living Spirit is within me, and the Spirit of God is upon me. And let's know together that that living Spirit within me is my life, my health, my strength, and my vitality. It is the Christ within me which strengthens me. This living Spirit within me is my supply. It prospers all my affairs and is limitless in supplying my goods. I draw on the inexhaustible substance of Spirit, which knows no limit. Abundance is my birthright, and I claim it now. The living Spirit within me is my intelligence. It guides and directs me in all my ways, ensuring that my every good desire is already complete. I acknowledge this as an accomplished fact now, right now. So I go forth today and every day in confidence and assurance, and with the positive conviction that the living Spirit of God is within me, and all is good in my world, and so it is, amen. And so it is, amen. Once again, I'm Reverend Dr. Henry Lee Bates, coming to you live this morning from Palm Springs, California, and this is The Way to a Wonderful Life, and our Way to a Wonderful Life message for today is titled Class Lessons of 1888. No, cross out that of 1888 and say Class Lessons for today. And I have some wonderful words from the great Emma Curtis Hopkins, and this is from her writings from the Class Lessons of 1888. It's going to amaze you just how how focused she was and just how enlightened she was and just how much the Spirit had moved through her mind to bring us this greatest of the highest truth that each and every one of us know that has been the truth throughout history. She writes, who would be free themselves must strike the blow. Who would be free themselves must strike the blow. Now, the explanation of the myth is that mankind has been looking at shadow and not substance, because man has taken the appearance for reality. The senses give appearances only. The appearance must be rectified by some higher faculty than physical sight. The senses tell that the sun arises and sets, but science explains that sunrise and sunset are appearances only. That's Emma Curtis Hopkins. So she tells us the appearance must be rectified by some higher faculty than physical sight. And that higher faculty is faith. Faith is the evidence of things not seen, the evidence of God's presence, God's power, and God's intelligence functioning actively in all things that concern us. Now, in the Gospel of John, the good news, John 7:24, Jesus teaches, do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment. Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgments. Now, this teaching was not new, as it also appeared in 1 Samuel 16:7. The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. The Lord looks at the heart. The Lord doesn't see things the way you see them. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. That's from 1 Samuel 16:7, and we know that just as Jesus tells us not to judge by appearances, but to judge with right judgment, to judge. That right judgment is knowing and always believing that the presence of God is right where we are, that no matter what's going on in our world, no matter what's going on in our own personal affairs, that there's that power, that spirit, that intelligence of God available to us 24/7 so we can move through whatever it is that we need to move through and find our life experience filled with a greater joy and a happiness and a peace and a love and prosperity. So in these teachings, we realize that reality is far beyond the human eye. It is not easy to control our thoughts as we gaze upon appearances that touch our emotions, that touch our worries, that touch our doubts, and touch our fears. But the intelligence that created us has given us the ability to do so and has imparted the intelligence necessary for us to judge with right judgment as the mastermind Jesus instructed. So let's go back to some more from class lessons of 1888. I speak of the marvelous effect of right thinking or silent working. The science of mind lays great stress upon the force and practical effect of right words. A right word, how good it is. Who can measure the force of a right word? He sent forth his word and healed them. 500 years after him, another declared that all that we are and all that we see is built by our thought. One came speaking as having authority to declare from the foundation of absolute knowledge, according to thy faith, be it done unto thee. According to thy faith, be it done unto thee. And we know that was the mastermind Jesus. So often we find people who are always telling us how to do this and how to do that, but we must find and discover within ourselves what it is that we are to do to make manifest that good thing that is ours. As Emerson tells us, that which I am to do best, only my Maker can teach me. That which I am to do best, only my Maker can teach me, even if that what I am to do best is just doing the normal things that come into our lives to do. There's no greater thing to do than doing the thing that we're called to do, whether that's called to be a housewife, called to be a plumber, called to be an accountant, called to be a business executive, called to be a business owner, called to be the president, or called to be a member of Congress, whatever it may be, or caused to be a fabulous, wonderful celebrity who brings song and acting to our world in a greater way. Whatever it is, we must do that thing that is ours to do, but that which we are to do best. As Emerson says, only our Maker can teach us. So let's clear our mind of the superstitions. So often we find teachers who tell us to repeat something for 8 days or something for 5 days, 5 times a day, or something to that effect. But we know this is superstition and really has no true value, for the mind already is aware that that day will come when we cease to repeat whatever it is that we are to repeat. We must daily and consciously take into our mind that spirituality that is within us, that is incarnated by the Spirit of God itself. We must consciously remind ourselves that we are every day in every way the living Spirit of God in form, and that all we see is that which is of God, and no matter what it may appear to reflect in the physical, the good of God shall be revealed to our mind and our heart, and we can become keenly aware of this truth in our life. Now, I know that many of you that are hearing this are saying, well, I know this already, but how often do we consciously activate this in our mind? How often do we consciously activate that if we're going to judge, we're going to judge with right judgment? And how often do we contemplate in our mind that the Lord doesn't see things the way we see them? We judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. How often do we consciously take into our mind, I'm going to look from my heart rather than look from my sight, and feel the presence of God moving through my heart, my mind, and my soul in a greater way? So many times we find ourselves wondering, just what does this heart symbolize? It symbolizes the subconscious. That's where all of our feelings of disappointment, all our feelings of sadness, all our feelings of rejection, but also all our feelings of great joy, all our feelings of great happiness, all our feelings of great peace. That's where they are made resident in our mind and our soul. So we know that is why Jesus said, or that's why the man revealed, Jesus didn't say it, that God looks through our heart. God looks from our heart. So let's start seeing things from our heart rather than from our physical sight. So let's go back to some class lessons again. If thoughts make us what we seem, and thoughts are controllable, then to control thoughts aright is to show forth rightly. The primitive mind, says a noted college president, takes appearance for reality. The appearances are that external conditions control thoughts, not that thoughts control conditions. Whoever accepts appearances for the reality in the material proves himself unlearned and untaught in the laws of the Spirit. Too often we let our emotions rule our thoughts, and in doing so we become controlled by our emotions rather than the intelligence that is always resident in our mind. Those who desire to realize success in their life experiences must learn to control their emotions and displace those of a weak or immature nature with that which is more rational and intelligent. So we know and we believe and we accept that truth is eternal. It was not brought into the world by man or woman, but by the intelligence of God through men and women. This is why we find the same truth in the Bhagavad Gita that we find in the Torah, and the same truth in the books of the Old Testament, the Gospels, and the New Testament. And these are but a few of the books that contain the revelations of truth throughout history. The cultural attitudes and expressions of truth may have differed throughout history, but the absolute truth has been woven through everything in this universe and beyond. We must just learn to follow the ancient wisdom and take the authority and dominion over our lives by using the truth that we know, so that we can discover more and more of it to make use of. So let's go back to those words of Emma Curtis Hopkins. I speak of the marvelous effect of right thinking or silent working. The science of mind lays great stress upon the force and practical effect of right words. A right word, how good it is. Who can measure the force of a right word? He sent forth his word and healed them. 500 years after him, another declared that all that we are and all that we see is built by our thought. One came speaking as having authority to declare from the foundation of absolute knowledge, according to thy faith, be it done unto you. And that's from the Mastermind Jesus. So who would be free themselves must strike the blow. We must look beyond the appearance. We must look with faith. We must look with spiritual attunement to that which we are experiencing and the things around us. Let's not let the appearances, let's not let anything outside of us blind us to the truth. Let's not let anything outside of us blind us to the understanding and the knowledge and the awareness that in him we live and move and have our being, and in us this living Spirit of God is seeking to express life in the most wonderful way, in the most beautiful way, in the most glorious way. Let's let our mind be still and not let ourselves judge by the appearance, but let our mind be still and let our soul start seeing from our heart, start feeling the things of our heart, so that we judge with that right judgment, which is the judgment of the Spirit in us, through us, and as us. And finally, some more from the lessons of 1888. Can you believe all this was coming so far back in history, and yet we still have people out there that are hating each other. We still have people out there that are refusing to love each other. We still have people out there that are refusing to recognize it, that there's a power and a presence and a spirit and an intelligence that can make all things new if we just let it enter into our mind, enter into our heart, and let it guide our soul and our spirit to those things that will bring us that greater joy and that greater happiness and that greater peace that God has prepared for us. So let's look at these lessons again. Be explicit, she tells us. Name the special good you would see brought to pass. Declare that it is brought to pass. Now, if you stand firm, the law will lead you up to the sight of the beautiful works done for you by the truth you have acknowledged so faithfully. By standing firm, we mean trusting wholly to the Spirit, ignoring the material appearances, trust to the protection of truth. Do not be afraid of anybody's power to harm you or anything's power to harm you. Expect success, and all things are promised to the wholehearted and the faithful. All things are promised to the wholehearted and the faithful. Nothing is promised to the half-hearted and the faltering. Nothing is promised to the half-hearted and faltering. And let's just know that we can bring into our mind a greater feeling of trust, a greater feeling of faith, and a greater feeling of knowing that in him we live and move and have our being, and begin to trust that this living Spirit within us, this intelligence within us, this power of faith within us, this spirit of happiness and joy and peace and love and harmony and beauty within us is God in us. We are created in the image, the likeness of God, not in the image, likeness of the world. So let's realize and let's know that as we discover within ourselves a greater reflection of that image, likeness of God, and start cultivating it, nurturing it, and fostering it in our mind on a daily basis, that we shall find ourselves seeing some amazing and marvelous things in our life experiences. As the Mastermind Jesus said, it's so simple. Look up and not down. Don't look at the appearance. Look up and know that God is present. God is here. That no matter what it is that I see, beyond the obstruction of the love and the joy and the peace and the happiness and the glory of God is the unobstructed, which is the power of God itself, the Spirit of God itself, and the intelligence of God itself. So let's go back to those class lessons. We're going to repeat this one more time. Be explicit. Name the special good you see brought to pass in your life. Declare that it is brought to pass. Now, if you stand firm, the law will lead you up to the sight of the beautiful works done for you by the truth you have acknowledged so faithfully. By standing firm, we mean trusting wholly to the Spirit, ignoring the claims of the material appearance, trust to the protection of truth, and be not afraid of anybody or anything's power to harm you. expect success, and all things are promised. All things are promised to the wholehearted and the faithful. Nothing, no thing is promised to the half-hearted and the faltering. No thing is promised to the half-hearted and the faltering. So we must get into the spirit of life if we want to win this game of life, if we want to realize a greater joy and peace and happiness and beauty, of wealth and prosperity and health in this thing called life. Let's look at some more words from the great Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was called the teacher of teachers, and all the great teachers of that movement that follows Jesus to declare the truth about life in a greater way, declares the truth that all the old dogmas of religion that got us a world full of strife and divisiveness and biases and violence even, that those teachings of Jesus will bring us to that enlightened state of mind where we can love one another, love our neighbor as ourselves, and find peace and joy and happiness. She was the teacher of all those teachers who are moving through that movement, teaching those great truths from Jesus, and all the great teachers who understood and knew that God is all in all, that God is everything. She said, faith can fulfill your slightest wish. Don't wait for the big things. Don't wait for the crisis or the urgency or the emergency to seek God in your mind. Seek God every day. Turn to God in everything. Turn to God in the little things, and turn to God so that you can be prayed up when something happens, prayed up when some appearance may enter into your life experience that before would have frightened you or brought you a discomfort or made you feel a doubt or a fear or an uncertainty about the presence of God being right where you are. Take into your mind simple words that will declare the truth for you, declare a profound truth, but in the simplest of words, just as Jesus said, pray knowing that it is. Those are simple words, but they belie a profound, magnificent truth that we can all count on and depend on. Just as Dr. O.C. Smith said, there is no spot where God is not. That enters into our mind as the omnipresence, the omnipotence, and the omniscience of God, the all-power, the all-spirit, and the all-knowingness of the divine, seeking to enter into our mind as that which we need to know, that which we need to do, and that which we need to be. If God is your world, what have you to fear? Emma Curtis Hopkins tells us, and look often to the vast, vast countenance. She means that face of God, which is we're all seeing it every time we look out into the world in which we live. Great believers in miracles draw them to us. Touch not the earth, but touch God. You must woo and woo the majesty and responsive beneficence ever facing us. Our wooing will be astonishingly rewarded, and that's just the same as Jesus telling us to keep our mind stayed on God, and all things shall be added unto us. If you can redden your face with a thought, that means when we blush and we're all embarrassed or we get all whatever. If you can redden your face with the thought, you can straighten your crooked bones with the thought. How powerful is that? And how many of us have attempted it? How many of us have said, I will turn to God rather than taking the pill. I will not take the pill, but I will turn to God and let God's will of my health being the perfect health, the amazing health, the glorious health of God reflected through me, that will come into my mind and that will come into my heart. Doesn't mean we'll never take a pill, but it means we will take less and less of them. There is no combination of experiences so hard, so black, so complicated, but that God can work a miracle in them. By some power whereby the trees leave forth, God is right here. God is right there. God is wherever we may be. Take your highest thought to God, Emma Curtis Hopkins tells us, and let us never flinch at what is happening around us. What is transpiring above is our concern. That is in the invisible, and this wins all battles, for the kingdom across the bar is a ruling kingdom. By continually keeping the name of God, that I am power within you and me, we have everlasting rest and delightful companionship, unbroken family life, abundant blessings greater than we could even ask or think of asking for. So let's take that into our mind and realize that in this enlightened state of understanding and knowing, just as Jesus told us the kingdom of God is within you. It's up to us to put in those thoughts and those words into our mind, into our consciousness, into our soul, so that we can experience this kingdom not only in our thoughts, not only in our divine imagination, but also in the picturing of those thoughts and divine imagination into our world in which we live. Let me tell you the 12 effects, Amber Curtis Hopkins tells us, of thinking of the Spirit. You will have life, you will have health, you will have strength, you will have support, you will have defense, you will have a thinking faculty, you will have wise speech, you will have the ability to record well your ideas, your joyous song, your skill in carrying out your principles, your beauty of judgment, and you will have great love. You will have great love. She tells us a woman who had no faith, but it had been told that what wonder might be wrought through faith, sat down and deliberately determined to learn it. She sat down in the midst of her poverty and loneliness with her little children about her and practiced learning. She seemed shiftless to her neighbors, but it was astonishing what luck, the people called it luck, that woman always had. She had faith. Something good was always turning up. Her children were all talented, beautiful, and prosperous. And so let's know and let's believe that this can happen just for you and me, because no one, God is no respecter of persons. God favors no one. Does gravity favor anyone? Of course not. God favors no one. If we want to align ourselves with the nature of God and receive more of the good, it's up to us to choose to align ourselves with the nature of God, that livingness, that forgivingness, and that givingness of God, so that we can receive that greater good. A man kept praising God. This is from Emma Curtis Hopkins. A man kept praising God that he was so well, while a great tumor or some other kind of swelling was plain to be seen by his neighbors. But he praised God publicly that he was so well for a whole fortnight, and I'm not sure how long a fortnight is, probably a week or a month. Long before the fortnight was up, he was well so that even his neighbors could see it was so. To say that God, my good is supply. My good is supply. God is my good, therefore God is my supply, is to stir the mountains and the seas to bring us all the things that we need, to bring us all the things that we need. Once again, let's finalize this class lesson for today with who would be free themselves must strike the blow. We must strike the blow to the lack of faith. We must strike the blow to the appearances that present themselves and try to convince us that there's something other than the goodness of God. There's something other than the presence of God. So as we judge not by appearances, but judge with right judgment, and realize that the Lord doesn't see things the way people see things. People judge by appearances, but the Lord, our God, looks at our heart. The Lord, our God, looks at our heart. So be explicit. Name the special good you would see brought to pass. Declare that it is brought to pass in the nature of Jesus. And if you stand firm, the law will lead you up to the sight of the beautiful works done for you by the truth you have acknowledged so faithfully. By standing firm, we mean trusting wholly to the Spirit, ignoring the material appearances, and trusting in the protection of truth, and being not afraid of anybody or anything's power to harm us. We can expect success, and all things are promised. All things are promised to the wholehearted and the faithful. No thing is promised to the half-hearted and the faltering. Or just to bring it down to a more simpler terms, as Dr. O.C. Smith would say, lukewarm water does not boil eggs. And so it is. Amen. Once again, I want to thank you for being with me today, and I hope you join me for my next broadcast right here on KTYM AM 1460 radio, and you can find me Saturday nights 5 p.m. at WIMB.com, and Monday through Friday on WKDI AM 840 radio in Maryland, Delaware, South Jersey, parts of D.C., and Virginia. You can also find me at KTYM.com every Sunday morning, 7:30 Pacific Time, 10:30 Eastern Time, 9:30 Central Time, And each and every morning, I want to tell you, as we take the power and the strength of the presence of God into our mind, into our heart, and we let it move through our soul in a radiant and vital way, we will vitalize this thing called life through us, as us, and for us. So let's take an affirmation into our mind. This is from the great Dr. Dominic Polifrone. Let's say this, and let's say it out loud, and let's say it explicitly as the truth for us. Say it with me. Say it out loud if you can. I rejoice and give thanks for the best of times and the best of everything right now, right where I am. And so it is. Amen.